While I was away on a business trip, my parents sold the classic car I'd spent a year restoring to fund my sister's luxury vacation. When I got back, my mom sneered, "Thanks to your old junk, your sister is having the time of her life." I just laughed, a sad, broken sound. She had no idea the old junk she'd just sold was not mine. This is a story about a gift that went horribly, tragically wrong. Before we get into it, I'd love to know, what city are you watching from today? And be sure to subscribe for our daily stories. Okay, let's head back to that garage. For the past year, my garage has been my sanctuary. It was a place of quiet, focused work, of the smell of oil and paint and old, beautiful machinery. It was the place where I was slowly, painstakingly bringing a ghost back to life. The ghost, in this case, was a 1968 Ford Mustang convertible, a rusted-out shell of a car that I had bought for a pittance from a farmer's field a year ago. To anyone else, it was a piece of junk. To me, it was the most important project of my life, because it was a secret gift for the two people I loved most in the world, and who, I was beginning to fear, didn't feel the same way about me. My parents, Howard and Diane. Their 30th wedding anniversary was just a week away, and I knew the story by heart. The story of their first date in a Mustang just like this one. The story of how they had to sell their own beloved car years later to afford the down payment on their first house, the house I grew up in. They had sacrificed their own youthful dream for the sake of their family, and I wanted more than anything to give that dream back to them. So I had worked. Every weekend, every evening after my real job, I was in that garage. I learned how to rebuild a carburetor from YouTube videos. I spent hours sanding down the old, rusted bodywork. I poured almost all of my own modest savings into finding the exact right shade of cherry red paint, into buying the perfect vintage leather for the seats. It was a true and deeply personal labor of love. The problem was my family's dynamic. I was the quiet, responsible, boring daughter. My younger sister, Brittany, was the star. She was the beautiful, charismatic, and endlessly charming one, and my parents orbited her like two devoted, doting planets. Her every whim was a command, her every minor drama a family crisis. My own quiet, steady life was, by comparison, invisible. The week of my mandatory out-of-state business trip was also the week Brittany decided on a whim that she desperately needed a vacation to Bali. "I'm just so stressed, Daddy," I had heard her whining to my father on the phone the night before I left. "I need to find myself." My parents, as always, had sighed and told her that money was tight, that they couldn't possibly afford such an extravagant trip. I left for my trip feeling a familiar mixture of guilt for my own success and a quiet resentment at my sister's endless manufactured drama. I kissed my parents goodbye, telling them I would be back on Friday, just in time for their anniversary dinner on Saturday. The car, my beautiful, secret surprise, was hidden under a thick gray tarp in my garage, ready for the big reveal. The phone call that shattered everything came on a Thursday night. I was in a lonely hotel room, looking over my presentation for the next day. It was my sister, Brittany. Her voice was a giddy, bubbling fountain of joy. "Sienna, you are not going to believe the most amazing news. Mom and Dad are the absolute best. They're sending me to Bali, first class. I'm leaving tomorrow morning." I sat on the edge of the hotel bed, a cold, confused feeling washing over me. "What?" I asked. "But they told you they couldn't afford it." "I know," she laughed, a sound of pure, unadulterated, spoiled delight. "But they found the money. They are absolute miracle workers. You know that old, ugly piece of junk you've been working on in your garage for the past year? That rusty old car?" The blood in my veins turned to ice. "What about it, Brittany?" I asked, my voice a low, dangerous whisper. "They sold it!" she exclaimed, completely oblivious to the horror that was dawning on my face. "Some collector who saw it in your driveway paid them $10,000 for it right on the spot. Isn't that great? Your useless, dirty little hobby finally paid off?" I don't remember the rest of the conversation. I think I just mumbled, "That's great, honey," and hung up. I sat there in the silent, sterile hotel room, the phone having slipped from my numb fingers. $10,000. They had sold my secret, priceless gift of love, a car worth 10 times that amount, a car that was the physical embodiment of their own love story, to fund my sister's last-minute whim of a vacation. My anniversary surprise for them was ruined. But as I sat there, the full, crushing weight of their casual, thoughtless betrayals settling upon me, I realized something else. The surprise wasn't over. Not by a long shot. They had just started a new one, and I had a feeling the surprise they were about to get when I came home from my business trip would be so much worse. The flight home was a 5-hour exercise in controlled, silent fury. I sat in my window seat, watching the clouds drift by, my mind a cold, clear, and terrifyingly calm landscape. The initial white-hot rage I had felt in that lonely hotel room had cooled, hardening into a single, sharp, and heavy point of purpose. My sister, Brittany, was already on a plane to Bali, a trip funded by the sale of my heart. And my parents, the two people who were supposed to protect me, had been the ones to so casually and so callously sell it. When I arrived home, I didn't go to my apartment first. I went straight to my parents' house. My mother had texted me to ask me to come for dinner, her message full of a cheerful, oblivious innocence that was now, to me, the very definition of monstrous. I walked into the house, my suitcase still in my hand. They were in the living room, a half-empty bottle of expensive champagne on the coffee table, a celebratory mood in the air. "Sienna, darling, you're back!" My mother, Diane, trilled, rushing over to give me a kiss on the cheek. "How was your trip? We have the most wonderful news to share with you." "I know," I said, my voice a flat, dead thing. I looked past her, at the empty space in their driveway where my beautiful, cherry-red, and almost finished Mustang was supposed to be. A space that was now just a dark, ugly oil stain on the pavement. Brittany called me. "Oh, good," my father, Howard, said, a broad, proud smile on his face. "Then you know. Isn't it just marvelous? We managed to get a fantastic price for that old thing. $10,000! And Brittany was able to book a first-class ticket. She was so happy, Sienna. She said it was the best surprise of her life." They were beaming at me, expecting me to join in their celebration, expecting me to be thrilled that my useless, dirty little hobby, as they so often called it, had finally been converted into something of actual, tangible value, a luxury vacation for their perfect, golden daughter. And it was in that moment, as I looked at their two smiling, confident, and utterly clueless faces, that something inside me broke. But it did not break into tears. It did not break into a scream. It broke into a laugh. It was not a happy sound. It was a short, sharp, and utterly broken chuckle, a sound of a heartbreak so profound, so complete, and so deeply, deeply ironic that it was the only sound my body could produce. Their smiles faltered. They stared at me, their expressions shifting from cheerful pride to a confused and slightly offended annoyance. "What's so funny?" my mother snapped, her voice losing its cheerful edge. "You should be thanking us. We did you a favor. We got a very good price for that piece of junk. $10,000 is more than you make in 2 months. I looked at them, at these two strangers who I had spent my entire life trying to please, and my sad, broken laugh finally faded, replaced by a slow, cold, and deeply pitying smile. "What's funny, Mom?" I said, my voice a quiet, hollow whisper, "is that you think you sold my car." "Of course we sold your car," my father said, his own voice now a low grumble of impatience. "Don't be dramatic, Sienna." "No," I said, shaking my head slowly, savoring the quiet, beautiful, and terrible moment of their dawning confusion. They had no idea what I was talking about. They were about to learn that the old junk they had so casually and so cruelly sold for a pittance wasn't just a car. It was a memory. It was a promise. It was the physical embodiment of a love they had long since forgotten. And it was, in the end, their own 30th anniversary gift. My parents stared at me, their faces a mask of pure, baffled confusion. The confident, smug satisfaction they had worn just moments before had been completely wiped away, replaced by a new, uncertain, and deeply suspicious apprehension. "What are you talking about, Sienna?" My father, Howard, finally grumbled, his voice a low, impatient growl. "Don't be dramatic, Sienna." "No," I said, my voice a quiet, hollow thing. I walked over to the mantelpiece, to the collection of framed family photos that told the sanitized, happy version of our family's story. I picked up their wedding photo, a picture of two young, hopeful people standing in front of their first tiny starter home. "Do you remember this day?" I asked, my voice still a whisper. "Do you remember the story you used to tell me about it?" They just looked at each other, completely thrown off balance by my strange, somber change in tactics. "You told me," I continued, my voice gaining a little strength as I recounted their own, long-forgotten history, "about your first date, how you, Dad, had to borrow your own father's 1968 cherry-led Mustang convertible, because you were too broke to own a car of your own. You told me how you fell in love in that car, driving up the coast with the windows down. You loved it so much that your father finally gave it to you." And then I looked at my mother. "And you told me how a few years later, you had to sell that same beautiful car, the one that held all your best memories, to afford the down payment on this very house. You told me it was the biggest regret of your life, but a sacrifice you had to make for our family." I placed the photograph back on the mantel and turned to face them. "For the last year," I said, my voice now a low, steady instrument of a truth they were not prepared to hear, "I have been working a second job on the weekends. I have been saving every single penny. And a year ago, I found one. The exact same model, the same year, rusting in a farmer's field 3 states away. I bought it, and I brought it home." I watched their faces as a flicker of a new, dawning, and deeply uncomfortable understanding began to creep into their eyes. "For 12 months, I said, my voice now beginning to tremble with the weight of the memory, "I have spent every free evening, every weekend in that cold, greasy garage. I have watched hundreds of hours of videos to learn how to rebuild a carburetor. I have spent a fortune I didn't have to find the exact perfect shade of cherry red paint. I have poured my own blood, my own sweat, and all the love I have for you both into bringing that car, that memory back to life. For you." I let the words hang in the air, a final, beautiful, and heartbreaking testament to a gift that had been so casually and so cruelly destroyed. "That car," I finally whispered, a single hot tear finally escaping and tracing a path down my cheek, "was not my car. It was never my car. It was my secret. It was your 30th anniversary present, the one I was going to give you with a big, stupid bow on it this Saturday." The silence that followed was a profound and terrible thing. It was the silence of a truth so absolute, so devastating, that it was a physical presence in the room. "No," my mother whispered, her hand flying to her mouth, her face a ruin of dawning, catastrophic horror. "No, that's not true. You're making this up to make us feel guilty." I didn't answer her. I just reached into my purse and pulled out a small, flat, velvet-wrapped box. I opened it and placed it on the coffee table in front of them. Inside, resting on a bed of black velvet, was a small, custom-engraved silver plaque. It read, "Happy 30th anniversary, Mom and Dad. The road ahead is still wide open. All my love, Sienna." It was the plaque I had been planning to mount on the dashboard. It was the final, irrefutable proof. They stared at it, and in that moment I watched them break. It was not a loud, dramatic shattering. It was a quiet, internal collapse. They were not just parents who had done a cruel thing to their daughter. They were people who had taken the single most profound, most thoughtful, and most loving gesture they had ever received, and they had, in their own blind, selfish, and thoughtless greed, sold it for a pittance to fund their other daughter's vacation. The shame of it, the sheer, unforgivable ugliness of their own actions was a thing I could see wash over them, a slow, gray, and drowning tide. My mother was now openly, hysterically weeping. My father, Howard, just sat there, his face a mask of pale, ashen shock. "We have to get it back," he finally whispered, his voice a ragged, desperate thing. "We can explain. We can buy it back." I just looked at him, my own heart now a cold, empty void. The time for tears was over. I said, my voice flat and final, "You can't. I called him this morning after Brittany told me. He's a classic car broker. It's what he does. He specializes in quick flips to international collectors." I took a deep breath before delivering the final, killing blow. "According to the email he sent me," I said, my voice now a whisper, "your anniversary present was loaded onto a cargo ship bound for a private collector in Dubai 4 hours ago." They just stared at me, the full, crushing, and irreversible weight of their mistake finally settling upon them. They hadn't just sold a car, they had sold a memory. They had sold a year of my love, of my labor, of my devotion, and now it was gone, a ghost, sailing away across a dark, indifferent ocean forever. The only thing left to do now, I thought, as I looked at the two broken strangers who were my parents, was to decide if our family was a wreck that was even worth trying to restore. I stood in the living room of my childhood home, a stranger watching two other strangers fall apart. My mother, Diane, was a wreck, her body racked with a storm of hysterical, gulping sobs. My father, Howard, just sat there on the expensive sofa, his face a gray, ashen mask of pure, uncomprehending horror. The beautiful, silver-framed plaque, with its loving inscription, sat on the coffee table between them, a silent, glittering accusation. Their perfect, well-ordered world, a world built on a foundation of casual favoritism and polite, smiling dismissions of my own quiet existence, had just been detonated by the ghost of their own forgotten love story. It was my father who spoke first, his voice a low, ragged whisper, not to me, but to his weeping wife. "How could we not have known?" he asked, his voice full of a dawning, sickening self-loathing. "A cherry-red '68 Mustang. How could we not have made the connection?" My mother just shook her head, her sobs too powerful for words. She spends so much time in that dirty garage," she finally managed to choke out. I thought it was another one of her sad little hobbies." And there it was, the truth, in all its ugly simplicity. My passion, my labor, my love, it had all been dismissed as a sad little hobby of their sad little daughter. "That sad little hobby," I said, my own voice now a cold, clear instrument of a truth they could no longer ignore, "was for you, both of you. It was a year of my life, a year of my savings, a year of my weekends and my evenings and my heart. And you sold it for $10,000 to send your favorite daughter to Bali." The word favorite hung in the air, a small, sharp, and undeniable stone of a word. "That's not true," my father whispered, though his voice held no conviction. "We love you both the same." "No, you don't," I said, the words not born of anger, but of a quiet, profound, and deeply weary sadness. "You never have, and that's okay. I think I made my peace with that a long time ago. But this," I gestured around the room, at their beautiful, comfortable life, "this was not just about me. This was about you. It was about your own history, your own love story. And you valued it so little that you traded it for a first-class plane ticket and a week at a luxury spa for Brittany." I walked to the front door and picked up my suitcase. "She is your daughter," I said, my voice now a final, quiet whisper. "And I am too, but I am not your consolation prize anymore. I am not the quiet, dependable, and invisible daughter you can afford to take for granted." My mother looked up at me then, her eyes red-rimmed and full of a desperate, pleading panic. "What are we going to do, Sienna? How can we ever fix this?" I looked at her, at my mother, at this woman I had spent my entire life trying and failing to please, and I felt nothing. Not anger, not even sadness, just a vast, empty, and liberating sense of peace. The desperate need for her approval, the invisible chain that had been around my neck my entire life, had finally, blessedly, been broken.
"I have no idea," I said, and the words were the truest I had ever spoken to her. But for the first time in my life, that is not my problem to solve. I opened the front door. "Happy anniversary, Mom and Dad," I said. "I hope it's everything you deserve." I walked out into the cool, clear night air, leaving them behind in the beautiful, silent house, alone with the ghosts of the love they had forgotten and the daughter they had just, finally, and irrevocably, lost. I walked out of my parents' house and into the cool, clear night, and I did not look back. The sound of my mother's hysterical sobs faded behind me, replaced by the quiet, steady hum of my own car's engine as I drove away. I did not feel triumphant. I did not feel a sense of satisfying revenge. I just felt empty. A profound, hollow, and strangely peaceful emptiness. The lifelong, exhausting struggle for their approval, for a single scrap of the unconditional love they gave so freely to my sister, was finally and completely over. The weeks that followed were a quiet, sad, and necessary unraveling. My parents, as I heard later through a concerned aunt, were a wreck. My father, a man who had always prided himself on his stoic, unemotional control, was consumed by a guilt so profound he could barely function. My mother, who had built her entire world around the idea of a perfect family, was now forced to confront the ugly, broken reality of what her own casual cruelty and favoritism had wrought. They had not just lost a car, they had lost the entire, beautiful, and fabricated history of their own love story. My sister, Brittany, returned from her luxurious vacation in Bali, tanned and clueless, to a house that was no longer a home, but a mausoleum of quiet resentment and regret. The story of what her vacation had truly cost, I am sure, was a difficult one for her to hear. They tried to contact me. Of course, there were dozens of voicemails, a stream of tearful, pleading, and self-pitying apologies. They promised to try and get the car back, to pay me for it, to make things right. But I didn't answer. It was never about the car. It was never about the money. It was about the value. They had looked at a year of my love, a year of my labor, a physical manifestation of my heart, and they had valued it at $10,000, the price of a first-class ticket to a tropical paradise for their favorite child. There was no coming back from that. I used the money I had been so carefully saving, and I did something I had always dreamed of doing. I quit my sensible, boring office job. I rented a small, beautiful, sunlit workshop on the other side of town, and I opened my own business, a small, bespoke restoration shop where I brought old, forgotten, and beautiful things back to life. I worked on old furniture, on antique clocks, on things that, like me, had been dismissed as junk, but still had a beautiful, strong, and valuable soul underneath. It has been a year now. My little shop is thriving. I am not rich, but I am happy. Truly and deeply happy for the first time in my life. I am a woman who is defined not by her family's approval, but by the skill of her own two hands and the quiet, steady integrity of her own heart. I sometimes think about that cherry red Mustang, a ghost now, sailing on some distant, indifferent ocean. I think about the man in Dubai who now owns it, and I hope he loves it. I hope he sees the care that went into every stitch of the leather, every coat of the paint.
My parents and my sister had looked at my secret, beautiful gift and had seen nothing but a price tag. And in doing so, they had revealed their own. They had taught me the most painful and most valuable lesson of my life, that the people who are supposed to love you the most can sometimes be the ones who see you the least. But their blindness had, in the end, been a gift of its own. It had allowed me to finally and completely see myself. And the woman I found, the woman who could take a ruin and make it beautiful again, was a woman I was finally and deeply proud to be. An absolutely heartbreaking and beautiful story about family, favoritism, and the true meaning of a gift. What do you think of the way Sienna handled the final confrontation? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you were moved by this powerful, emotional story, please show your support by hitting that like button and be sure to subscribe for more incredible stories every day. Don't forget to click the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.